so you can. Okay, good morning to everybody. It's 10 o'clock.
Good morning.
And I'm in for a treat with this by listening to us this morning. A warm welcome to Steven. I listened to him present last week, one evening, and it was a fascinating talk. So I suggest that you all just sit back, relax. And Steven, if you want to give a bit of your background so they know where you come from, that will also be great. And you can also tell them a bit, I'm sure most people know about Rodriguez, so you can also give a bit of a background on that, which will be great before you start.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Can I also suggest, Diana, that you ask everybody just to click the little mute button at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, because sometimes people forget to, and then we have some very interesting conversations.
Yeah, we'll check and we'll mute as well. So everybody, if you could just mute yourselves now so that Steven can talk. Thank you.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Before I start telling you this incredibly weird story, I just looked through everybody who's listening, and there's one person who's listening who I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I'm really happy that this person is listening because they're a very, very important part of the story. So hello to that person, but it's a spoiler alert. I'm not going to say it is until afterwards, but it's just really lovely to have a very important person in the story actually listening in. I'm very chuffed about that. So let me tell you this very, very crazy story that happened. Now, as some of you may know, many years ago, it was just under 10 years ago, I got involved in this very weird story where I went looking for a musician called Rodriguez, because my name's actually Sugar. My name's Steven, but everybody, my surname's Segerman. People used to mispronounce it as Sugarman. And then when the song by Rodriguez came out called Sugar Man, everyone started calling me that, which was very, very weird coincidence, because many years later, I got called Sugar for many years, like 20 years before the whole Rodriguez thing happened. And when the Rodriguez thing happened, it was very weird that the guy who went looking for him, his name was Sugar, named after his song, which was a very strange coincidence. But I just want to. So what I wanted to say is that that was a wonderful story. Someone asked me a question on a beach, on Camps Bay Beach, that created this whole search, and it's created. We've made a documentary, which some of you may have seen, called "Searching for Sugar Man," and I just want to. So that was many years ago, and I'm actually from Johannesburg. I was born out and raised in Johannesburg, and I moved down to Cape Town about 25 years ago. And I'm just wondering now, Diana, I can't get a full screen. Can you possibly find a way that I can? I'm not getting the full screen.
You want to be the full?
Yes, if possible, please.
Okay, I'll try and do it for you now. Hang on.
Ask Rebecca, maybe. I'm not really sure what to do from my side.
Rebecca, can you just try
That you want?
to make the speaker the full screen?
Oh, okay.
It was the full screen.
There we go. That's fine, yeah. There's a reason for that. I want to show, there's a certain picture I want to show. So I moved down to Cape Town about 25 years ago, and I've been living here. And what happened was I used to work for a company, an internet company on Green Market Square. And I used to love browsing around Green Market Square. I love markets. And then there was also used to be one in Greenpoint, the market I used to go to. And then what happened was I got involved in a record store in Gardens called Marbu Vinyl. And because it was a secondhand store, I used to go and look through the markets for all kinds of secondhand LPs, 7-inch singles, CDs, books, DVDs, anything I could find that we could resell. And then someone suggested I try Milnerton Market, And I didn't really know about it, and I went there, and it grew into a Sunday morning tradition, because that is the nicest market in Cape Town. For those who haven't been, it's this big piece of ground in Milnerton along the beach, and it's huge, and there's a lot of stalls, and a lot of private sellers started coming there, bringing their own tuskers to sell at the market. And we used to go every Sunday morning and find all kinds of very interesting stuff. We used to call it a retail stroll along the beach, because you can buy stuff. Now, the story starts about 3 years ago. I was at Milnerton Market. I was browsing through a stall, and it was a stall I hadn't seen before, and I saw a framed picture of a Barmitvah Boy. Now, I want to just show you, this is the picture over here. This is the picture. It was a framed, beautiful glass framed picture of a Barmitvah Boy. And I looked at this and I thought, that's weird. Why would someone sell a picture of a Barmitvah Boy? And I looked at the picture. I immediately realized he was from around about the time when I had my Bar Mitzvah, which was like late 60s, early 70s. So I thought, like, I'm going to buy it. I used to buy anything. If it was cheap enough, you never know. So the guy charged me, I don't know, 10 or 20 Rand. He didn't know what it was. And I bought the Bar Mitzvah Boy and I brought it home. Now, in our dining room, where I live here in Oranje, we've got a unit, like a glass unit with all kinds of crockery and cutlery in it. And on top, we've got all our family pictures lined across the top of this unit. So what we did is we put this picture in the middle of all our family pictures. It was quite much it was a lot taller than the other pictures. And it became kind of part of our family, because everyone used to come for dinner used to say, who's that? You say, oh, that's the Barmitvah Boy. And we used to actually make up weird names. You used to call him Milton or John, and say some kind of weird story. And then eventually we'd say, well, actually, we don't know who it is. It's just a guy we found a picture at Milnerton Market. It became kind of a tradition in our house. But more recently, it started bothering me. It's sort of like, who is this person? He must be from Cape Town. He must have a name. He's become part of our family. So let's try to find out who he is. So I like doing searches. So I started going on to sort of various Facebook groups and Jewish groups and putting the picture up and saying, does anybody know who this is? And nothing really happened. So my daughter, Natalia, she said to me, you should try one of the Jewish newspapers. And she said, my daughter said, I've got a friend called Tali Feinberg, who's a journalist on the Jewish Report. Why don't you speak to her? And I thought, I don't know if she'd be interested anyway. So I contacted Tali Feinberg. She lives here in the City Bowl. And I told her the story, and she fortunately recognized it as a good story, because she knew the story of searching for Sugarman, search for Rodriguez, and she saw a link between the two. So now it was a search for the Barmitvah Boy. So what she did is I met with her and I told her the whole story. And she ran a story. It was the 9th of April of this year that she ran the story just about what I'm doing, why I'm looking for this Bar Mitzvah Boy, if anybody can help me. Now, you got to understand, I'm not really a detective. I've never been officially a detective. I'm not a musical detective. Excuse me, just half a second, please. And I'm just very curious. I like when I'm looking for a book, I'll go search the city for a book or a record. And I used to, when I grew up, my late grandfather and my dad had a jewelry factory in Johannesburg, and I worked in the factory. And when you work in a jewelry factory, things drop on the ground, and they're little things like diamonds and pieces of gold, and you can't say, doesn't matter, you've got to find them. So I got into the concept of actually I used to get down and find these little diamonds that were worth thousands of Rand. So when I get curious and I start looking for something, I don't stop. So the only information I had on this picture was down the bottom of the picture. It had no names and nothing on it. It just said Barmitvah Studios. That's all it said, Barmitvah Studios. So why I chose the Jewish Report is because I knew that the Jewish Report has an online edition that people all around the world read, the online edition of the Jewish Report, which meant that the search would have a wider access to people, and someone out there might be able to tell me. And that was correct, because in the days following the publication of the story, I put my email address into the story, and I started getting a lot of emails from people all around the world. Now, initially, the majority of the stories were to tell me that I'd got the name of the studio wrong. It wasn't Brigda Studios. It was actually Bridge Studios. On the picture I looked, and the little E that cut off the bottom of the E, so it looked like Brigda Studios. And a few people like Jaime Reingold in London and Julius Zabo and Melvin Davidovitz, guys I didn't really know, ex-Capetonians, told me that Bridge Studios was a very popular photographic studio. I'm sure a lot of you remember Bridge Studios because there was a gentleman called Menashe Golshevsky, and he was this photographer who between the late 60s and early 70s took all the bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah, the wedding pictures. He was the guy. He took all the Jewish photographs in the city. So everybody knew Menashe and Bridge Studios. And he took this Barmitvah Boy photograph, which meant he passed away in 1973. So I reckon that my timing, I'm trying to date that photograph, was kind of right. But someone said to me that he's passed away, but his sons might still be alive. And in the first of many coincidences, they sent me a photograph of the Woodstock Cheder from 1956, a black and white photo, and said to me, in this picture are some of his kids. But I thought, you know what? I don't know if his kids are still alive. How am I going to trace them? And even if I do, how are his children going to remember of a picture that he took in 1973 when they were young kids? So, but I live next door to a gentleman called Harold Ardessis. And Harold is an old Woodstock soldier of a Jewish boy from Cape Town. And he runs the Ponevezh Shul in Maynard Street in Gardens. And he hangs out with all his old chums from Woodstock and Salt River. So I thought he'd be interested to see this picture. So I showed Harold this picture. I said, look at this picture of the Woodstock Cheder from 1956. Do you know anybody in this picture? And Harold looked at me and said, yeah, I'm in that picture. That's me on the end of the row. There was little Harold Ardessis, aged, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 years old. That was just the first of one many weird coincidences. But then what happened was I got a breakthrough. And a gentleman called Cedric Reingold, who now, from Cape Town, who now lives in Chicago, emailed me and said, I grew up in Highlands Estate, and I matriculated from Herzliya in 1978. And I recently read your Barmitvah Boy article, the search article in the Jewish Report, and I know that guy. His name is Arnold Kleinberger, and he was in our standard 1 or standard 2 class, but he left Herzliya very early. Cedric said he was scrolling through the online version of the newspaper, and he saw the photograph. He recognized Arnold, and he went into contact. He had a whole matric group from Herzliya on Facebook, and he showed them, and some of them had read the article, and they all recognized, said, oh, that's definitely Arnold Kleinberger. So I was excited because Cedric seemed very sure, and I'd found out who the Barmitvah Boy was. So I did more of a search, and I found out that he was born, the Barmitvah Boy Arnold was born in 1960. So his bar mitzvah was in 1973, which fitted with my timeline. Sadly, I found out that Arnold Kleinberger had passed away at a very young age of 37 years old. And I started going online, and the Chevra Kadisha in Cape Town have a lot of the tombstones in the cemetery online. So you can actually search a person and see their tombstone. And I found a photograph of Arnold's tombstone from the Chevra Kadisha, and I looked to see if I could find any clues. And it said on the tombstone he was mourned by his family, but it only mentioned his mother, a woman called Sadie. And I discovered that she had passed away in 2015. And the tombstone also said he was mourned by, Dora was mourned by her daughters Marlene and Anita, son-in-law Morris, and her granddaughters Nadine and Aura. Aura, that's a strange name. So I searched Facebook and for anyone called Kleinberger, and I found someone called Dore Kleinberger. And I Google searched Dore Kleinberger, and I saw a thing that said condolences to Dore Kleinberger on the passing of her mother, Eva Wolowitz. Now, I know the Wolowitzes from Port Elizabeth. I used to hang out in peace. I know Wolowitz is a Port Elizabeth family. So I did more searching, and I came to the tombstone of Dore's mother. And on that stone, I saw the name Aura again, A-U-R-A, which is a very unusual name. And that gave me a definite link. So I thought, right, Aura Kleinberger, granddaughter, that could be someone I could speak to. So what I did is I Googled the name Aura Kleinberger, and up came Herzliya, if you've been at Herzliya, as many of you I assume have, they have an alumni association newsletter, and anybody from Herzliya who's got married or had a baby, it's on the newsletter. And on the newsletter, I saw to Ora Nay Kleinberger from 2005 and Adam Zartz from 2009. That's when they were at Herzliya, a son. So, okay, now this is where the weird part happens. This was a Saturday night, and I'm sitting Googling and searching, and I come up with the name Ora Kleinberger, Adam Zartz. Now, my daughter Natalia, who I mentioned earlier, she's married to a Cape Town guy called Ryan Rabinowitz. And they live in London, but they were actually visiting and staying with us at the time. So I just, Ryan Rabinowitz, Ryan, my son-in-law, was standing behind me. I said to him, do you know someone called Adam Zartz? Because you were at Herzliya. And he said, yeah, of course I know Adam Zartz. I was at Kiva Machaneh with him at camp. And he says, weirdly enough, my son-in-law said, I was in shul this morning and I sat next to Adam Zartz. I thought, that's completely ridiculous. On the day that I discovered the name of the Barmitvah Boy, his son-in-law and my son-in-law sat next to each other in shul. So this started to really freak me out. This is getting very weird. So I said to Ryan, do you have Adam Zartz's phone number? He said, yes, of course. He's on my phone. I'm in contact with him. Even, you know, these days, diddle, what's up? There's Adam Zartz. I'm talking to Adam Zartz, the Barmitvah Boy's son-in-law. I said, is Ora there? He said, yeah, hold on. So Ora came on the phone, and I started talking to Ora, and she started filling me in on all the information. She said that Doré was her mom. Her mom was divorced from the Barmitvah Boy, her dad, when she was about 9. And Anita and the Barmitvah Boy's sisters was Anita Schenker and Marlene Kleinberger. Marlene never got married, and Anita Schenker is married to Morris Schenker. So now all these names, I knew who they were. Then she told me another weird thing. She said that her father had grown up in Oranje, where he lived with his mom, Sadie. And I said, where in Oranje? Because I live in Oranje. She said it was 20 Hilton Road. Now, I live in Forest Road, which is one of the roads that runs up in Oranje towards the mountain. And the next road parallel to us is Hilton Road. So I've subsequently found out that most of the houses in this area are half a block. But that house, 20 Hilton Road, extended right across to Forest Road. So I said to her, what number Forest Road was the house? And she said, 23. I thought, my word. The Barmitvah Boy grew up 4 houses away from me, literally 4 houses. There's a road, but 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. I know that house. I walk past it all the time. So by then the hair on my arms was starting to stand up. I thought, this is just really just too weird. So she said his bar mitzvah was on the 13th of January, 1973. And she actually knew the photo because she'd recently been given the bar mitzvah book by Anita's husband, Morris Schenker, which had the same photo. Now, another weird coincidence is that we've lived in this house for many years, and there was a char who worked for a woman just up the road who used to come and help us with our laundry. And we didn't know where she worked, but it turned out she came to us one day, her name was Letty, and said, I can't help you anymore because the lady I work for has passed away. That was the Barmitvah Boy's mother who passed away. His child was actually working with us. So Ora had a little daughter whose name's Allegra, which is named after Arnold. And she said her dad was kind of elusive to her when she was growing up because she was only very young when her parents got divorced. And she didn't see her dad much in the years before his death, which marked with a lot of difficulties. He had a complicated life, the Barmitvah Boy. So she said when I phoned her and spoke to her on the phone, she was on like some kind of candid camera show. She thought, this is really weird. And she was kind of sad that her dad's photograph had landed up in a complete stranger's house. Okay. And she told me about her grandmother. She spent a lot of time in the house just up the road. She loved her grandmother. She spent a lot of time. It was a very happy place. And she also told me that her mother, Doré, is the last remaining Kleinberger. Arnold's father was Ernest Kleinberger, and he came to South Africa from Germany in 1936. He escaped the Holocaust, got on a boat. He was 13 years old. He had, the Barmitvah Boy's father had his bar mitzvah on the boat, which is quite a common thing. My wife's my wife's grandfather also had his bar mitzvah on the boat. These young guys of 13, but put on a boat, sailed off to a distant country, the bottom of Africa, and had their bar mitzvahs. Instead of in a shul with all their family, they had these bar mitzvahs. So this was just too weird, this whole thing, how I started discovering all of this. And then also what was strange is I contacted Tali Feinberg, who was the journalist who published the story originally. And I said, the Bar Mitzvah Boy's sister is Anita Schenker. And she went, I can't believe it, because when Tali Feinberg started her career in journalism, she was with the Jewish Chronicle. And at that time, Anita Schenker was, I think, the editor of the Jewish Chronicle. She ran the whole Jewish Chronicle. And she took Tali Feinberg under her wing and was her mentor and taught her everything about journalism. So Tali Feinberg, the journalist, had a very close connection to the Bar Mitzvah Boy. So then I found out more about this Bar Mitzvah Boy, Arnold Kleinberger. Apparently he had a very tough exterior. He was a very kind person. He was in the army, and something happened in the army at a very difficult time. But he loved Formula One racing and motorbikes. He'd keep time at Killarney. He loved to braai and surf. And Dore said for their honeymoon, they went up the coast with his surfboard. And Ora said, you know, my husband also loves to braai. He loves cars and motorbikes and is a very good surfer. There was a nice sort of correlation there. Now, this whole resolution to the story was very strange. You know, I'd been involved in one search already for Rodriguez, and I didn't realize that this whole story was where it was going to take me. And when I walk around the neighborhood, which I do very often, I always walk up past the Bar Mitzvah Boy's house along Forest Road. And when I come back round, I come back along Hilton Road and I pass his house. I even know the house. And I went for a walk and I felt such a close affinity to the Bar Mitzvah Boy in his house because we grew up in the same area, obviously at different times. And I decided that because the Bar Mitzvah Boy didn't have a son, when it was his yacht site, I thought, I'm going to say Kaddish for the Bar Mitzvah Boy for Arnold, even though I didn't know him. And then what happened was that Tali Feinberg decided, now this all happened in a week. The article first appeared on the 9th of April, and this whole thing happened in that week. And Tali decided she's going to write a follow-up article for the 16th of April Jewish Report. So what she did is she arranged a meeting between myself and Ora, Bar Mitzvah Boy's daughter, and Dore Kleinberger, the Bar Mitzvah Boy's ex-wife, at Cafe Ritova down by the Garden Shul. And we met there, and it was just a really, really wonderful thing. I met the Bar Mitzvah Boy's daughter and his ex-wife, and they brought me a whole lot of photographs of the Barmy Boy and just showed me and told me all about him, and I filled in a lot of information. But then just a really beautiful thing happened. What happened was I took the photograph with me because I thought the reason the photograph was on Milton Market was that Ora said her auntie Marlene Kleinberger, who never got married, she lived in Milton, and she passed away 3 years before. And Anita Schenker went and took all her stuff, and they just put it on Milton Market, which was coincidentally 3 years before I was walking along and I found the picture, and that's how it got to be on Milton Market. And I said to Ora, you know, this is a photograph of your dad. It means a lot to us because it's become kind of part of our family, but I just thought you would want it. And she said to me, you know, when I first heard about the story, I thought, Ora said, what is my father trying to tell me? And when she heard that I lived in Forest Road, she said, I realized my dad was trying to find his way back home. So I offered the picture to Ora, and she said, no, thank you. I feel that although I wanted, I feel it's better that you take the photograph because my dad has literally found his way back home. And that I give it to you with a happy heart because I feel that my dad is exactly where he needs to be. So the Bar Mitzvah Boy photograph now stands in our house in the same place. And Arnold Kleinberger, the Barmy Boy, is now pretty much in some way part of our family. And that is the story of my search for the Barmy Boy. Now, because now, okay, that's a story. We've got a little bit more time. So if anybody has any questions or can add anything to the story. Oh, here's what's interesting. Before the talk starts, I look to see all the people who are listening, and I'm extremely happy to tell you that Dore Kleinberger is listening to the conversation. That's the Barmitvah Boy's ex-wife. And I didn't want to tell you because there would have been a spoiler, but Dore, I just want to say hello. How are you? It's lovely to know you could hear this story from me. And I'm getting very emotional knowing that you're actually listening to this story. So thank you for being here. And thank you to all of you for listening. Any questions?
So, Stephen, I think you had some photographs that you wanted to show that can be viewed. So, Rebecca, if you'd like to just show them.
Also, I just want to show you. This is the picture of this is Arnold Kleinberger, the Barmitvah Boy. It's just a beautiful picture. Also, you'll see he's holding a siddur, which my son-in-law told me was kind of the traditional siddur that the Barmitvah Boys used to get on their barmies. But if you look at the picture, when I first saw this picture, I recognized the thick tie, the kind of the suit. I just knew this was from my era. So this is the picture of the Barmitvah Boy that stands in our house.
I'm going to share my screen. I think there's also a picture of the Barmitvah Boy there.
Here's the picture, yeah.
Let's get to the other ones.
Okay, so this when I met with Aura and Dore, they gave me a lot of photographs of, and I had it. We did a composite and laminated it. This is the Barmitvah Boy, the top one, the Barmitvah Boy with his family. You can just see there's one over here where he's standing with his two sisters, Anita and Marlene. Down the bottom, there's a picture of the Barmitvah Boy and his mom standing outside their house in Hilton Road. This was lovely because, so where the picture stands in my house now, this picture with all the little pictures in stands, instead of just having a plain picture, we've now got a composite of all the pictures of the Barmitvah Boy. Okay. This is the picture which we took our masks off for this one. This is Aura. This is the Barmitvah Boy's daughter and myself at Cafe Ritava where we met, and the picture with the Barmitvah Boy. This is the picture the guy sent me of the Woodstock Cheder from 1956. So I don't know if any of you know any of the people in this picture, but in the second row, there's three kids sitting in the front row. Then in the row behind them on the extreme left, there's a little guy with a floral shirt and a little cap on. That's Harold Ardesis. That's my neighbor. That's who he said, that's me. I don't know anybody else in this picture. Some of the Menashe Golshevsky's pictures, sons are in this picture, but I don't know if anyone knows. I'm sure someone knows people in this picture. Okay.
This is the last picture that I have.
Thank you.
Those are the pictures, yeah. So anybody got any questions or any information or anything they want to share with us?
Hi, Sugar. I'm Morris Schenker. I was the late Arnold's brother-in-law. Hi.
Wow, where are, I'm trying to see your Morris. I didn't know you were listening. I'm very, very pleased to meet you.
Andrew, to me, wow. the mystery is how the picture got to the Milnerton market, because I was involved with Anita when we emptied Marlene's house.
Yes.
And certainly a picture like that we would not have sent to the Milnerton market. In fact, I've got a garage full of our pictures. So to me, that is the mystery. It could very well have been, with some stuff which we never really saw. But it certainly was not, we never sent pictures like that to the market.
Well, so that, lovely to have you. Everybody, Morris is the Barmitvah Boy's brother-in-law. Sorry, this is getting weird. So That's why it bothered me, Morris, because I know that a picture like that, no one would part with a picture like that.
Exactly.
So how it slipped out of the system and got there. I mean, also at the store where I found it, I looked for anything else. Because, you know, if I see something Jewish, I look to see maybe there's candlesticks, stuff that shouldn't be on a market, that should be in a home, you know, maybe a Siddur or something. But I didn't find anything else. It was just that. So that's why I found it very strange. And you say you've got a garage, a lot of stuff, which explains why you wouldn't have parted with that at all. So that is a mystery how it got there. But you know what? Sometimes things happen mysteriously and create and what happens afterwards sort of justifies it. So I think in this case, let's just say the end justifies the means, I guess, you know.
Correct. There's always a reason for something happening.
Lovely to meet you, really.
Thank you.
I've just you've been in my mind a lot. I've done this talk a few times, and I have relatives in Johannesburg called Schenker, and I've been trying to find out whether we're actually related or not. But that's for another time. Lovely. I'm so pleased you could be here with us this morning. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I'd like to say something. Sybil Castle. I'm not showing my face because I'm not exactly ready for showing. But
no problem.
I'm fascinated with your talk, really, and I love coincidences and things like that. But we have a connection too. And your brother-in-law, I believe, is Benjamin in Israel. Is that correct? Brian.
Brian Benjamin.
Brian
Yeah, that's
Benjamin.
right.
He's married to a cousin of mine, a cousin of mine's daughter, Janine.
Who's your cousin?
Janine.
Yeah,
Janine.
but your cousin would be Frida.
Her late husband, Harry.
Harry
Was my first cousin.
Wow.
And I've met them in Israel.
Yeah, that's my wife's brother, which is another weird part. Is in about 1976, I moved into a commune with Frida's son Steven, the late they call him Swersky, the late Steven, Janine's brother. Yes. And I moved into a commune in Parktown in Johannesburg, and it was this huge mansion that had about 9 of us living in a house together. And the first night we sat together, there were 3 Stevens. There was Steven Swersky and another Steven Brivik, and I'm Steven Segerman. So Steven Swersky said, we can't all be Stevens, we have to have nicknames. So he was called Swaz, and the other guy he called something else. And me, he said, from now on, you're going to be called Sugar. So Janine's brother was actually the guy who gave me my name, which, I mean, everybody calls me Sugar since that day. And this was like 20 years before the Rodriguez thing. So Sybil, that's lovely to hear. That's a lovely part of the story. Thank you.
I seem to remember that Janine and Brian were in a commune, and in those days it was quite something. And from a commune to the most religious place in Israel, it's something really interesting.
They got Janine's brother got married, and we all came to Cape Town for the wedding. And then Brian and Jean were living on a farm in Wilderness, and I went to the farm in Wilderness, the whole commune reunion, and that's where I met my wife, because my wife is Brian's sister. So this whole thing is just
And I was at the wedding too in Cape Town.
Were you? I didn't see you.
No.
Lovely to meet you, Sybil. Thank you. That's lovely. Wow.
And I think I taught your daughter at Camps Bay. Was she at Camps Bay? Junior?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, Natalia.
I taught her religious instruction at Camps Bay, primary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you did well, because she's from a Shabbos now, so I guess you did a really good job there.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Sybil. Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you this way.
Wow. They call it Jewish job.
Okay,
so weird.
Stephen, there's in the chat. There's a couple of messages to you. This is from Hajira, who's one of our colleagues. Truly profound and interesting story. Thank you for sharing. The fact that you took on the task of finding the Barmitvah boy with such vigor and keeping the story alive, adding dignity to his existence, says a lot about your character. And then she goes on to say that Harold Ardesis was her high school director at Rosebank House, Damlin College, An amazing man. Please send him my regards.
Who's that from? Thanks, Diana. Who said
That's
that?
from Hajira, who is one of our colleagues.
Ah, okay. I'll tell Harold. Yeah, I actually, in Naranyazak, there are a lot of these houses are massive. So he lives above us. It's not my next door neighbor. He's actually, where I'm talking, he lives in the house upstairs. So we're even closer than neighbors.
Yeah.
I'll tell him.
Anybody else would like to add to this? Such an interesting morning.
Oh, I see. There's Hajira. Hi, Hajira.
Anybody want to add anything? Okay, Dora, I can see you. Would you like to say a few words?
Hello, Dora. How are you?
I'm sorry. As I was about to say something, the dog started barking. You know, all the time in the day, the dog used to bark. But yes,
Just
Stephen,
Dora, if you look at the dog on their left ear, there's usually a mute button. Just press the button on the dog's left ear.
I wish. I'll have to make sure that the vet tells me exactly where. I just want to say thank you very, very much, Stephen. It was very interesting. It has been lovely meeting you, and obviously the whole connection story. But yeah, it was really interesting, and I just want to say thank you.
And thank you to you. I was just so happy to see your name amongst the people who were watching, and I was bursting to say how's it, but I couldn't.
I actually wasn't aware of it, and a very dear friend of mine messaged me sort of early this morning and just said to me, "This is happening."
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, Aura couldn't join us, but she obviously sends love. And then, if I can just say one thing, you know, this whole story has been so many coincidences, as we found out through this journey. But another coincidence is you're giving this talk today, and it's actually Anita's second Yotzat tonight. So, Morris, I wish you long life.
Wish you long life, Morris.
Thank you, guys. And it was actually Dora's birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Dora.
Thank you.
Birthday, Dora.
Thank you. So just thank you, everybody, for watching. And this has been a really good story. And as Aura told you, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier because I lost connection for a bit. This has been true closure for her in terms of the passing of her dad.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you, Dora. Lovely to see you. I just want to also say that, you know, the documentary we made about Rodriguez was nominated for an Oscar, which, I mean, it was just myself and a guy and a woman with a camera driving around Cape Town. We had no idea that their little story was going to turn out into such a good film and then get nominated for an Oscar. But when we got nominated, we all went to Los Angeles for the Oscars. I found myself at the Oscar ceremony. Now, I wasn't nominated because I wasn't a producer of the film, but I was sitting up in the gods, as they say, in this theater, and we won the Oscar, which was very exciting. And as a result, you get, because we had a statue, after the Oscars, they have a Vanity Fair party. And you can only get into this Vanity Fair after Oscars party if either you've got a statue to get in or if you're a recognizable celebrity. So we had a statue, we all went into this party. And it was just, for me, a little Jewish boy from Cape Town in Johannesburg. It was just a complete mind blast because I knew everybody at the party. It was Robert De Niro walked past and this one and that one, and I was completely out of my league. And we found a little table in the middle of the ceremony of the party. We put our Oscar on the table, and we just stood there. And I suddenly noticed across the table from me was a very elderly American gentleman, gray crew cut, Medal of Honor. I thought, that's not a film star. And I got introduced to him, and it was Buzz Aldrin. Okay, now Buzz Aldrin, for all of you know, in 1969, he was the second man to walk on the moon. And I thought to myself, you know, this is too weird, meeting Buzz Aldrin. Why am I I always look for meaning in things. But why am I meeting Buzz Aldrin? And I realized the answer was very clear to me. The answer was that Buzz Aldrin went to the moon and walked on the moon. But when he was coming back from the moon, he knew he's not going back to the moon again. And for me, being at the Oscars and being at the Vanity Fair party was like walking on the moon. And I knew I'm not coming back there. This is a one-off thing. And I went home quite happy having just experienced this. And why I'm telling you this is because a lot of people are saying, oh, you're going to make another documentary about the Barmitvah Boy, you know. And I was thinking about Buzz Aldrin. I don't think we can make a full movie out of this, but it's not the same kind of story. But who knows? You never know. I might land up back there again, although I very much doubt it. It is like walking on the moon. But we're still working on it, so who knows? It might be a shorter film.
Yeah.
Anyone else got
incredible experience you've had from that? No,
yeah, that's
really amazing.
The fact is that Rodriguez, from being just really famous in South Africa and in Australia as well, is now, I mean, he's famous around the world. The other day I got a message in Korean, a whole Korean message that I can't read Korea because it's all these funny squiggly letters, but in the middle I could see searching for Sugarman. So he's known from Japan to South America. He's become very famous, and he got all the money that he never had before. But he's a very humble kind of guy. He lives in the same house, and it's a really derelict house. But he loves his house, and he's a very philosophical guy. And the fame and the recognition was more important to him than actually making a lot of money. So that was a story that ended really well.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that would like to say anything or ask any questions?
We've still got some time. Anybody want to add anything? Please feel free.
Okay.
I haven't seen that movie. Has everybody else seen that movie that you're talking about? Because I've never seen it. Maybe you could put it on for us.
Either we could do that, or maybe at another stage come back and talk about that, because maybe the people would like to hear about Sugarman.
I'm sure most people have seen it, Estelle. I'm not sure. It's not on Netflix and it's not on Showmax, I don't think. I'm trying to think how you could see it. Do you have a DVD player? Where are you based?
She's in Tableview. You muted, Estelle.
I'm in Parklands, Tableview area.
Let's see if we can find a way. It's quite a long film to watch. It's like 90 minutes. Let's see if we can find a way.
So maybe, you know, what I do every Thursday afternoon is we have a movie afternoon. So maybe we could look at it and have you got a copy of it? You've obviously got a copy of it. Could we not show it one Thursday afternoon?
I'd have to search to find a copy of it.
Oh, really?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I've got this is the room that I'm sitting in is it's called a man cave pretty much, and I've got a lot of very interesting pictures and a lot of copies of the movie. I could get you a copy of the movie with pleasure if you wanted to show it. And then if you want to have a follow-up discussion about it, I'll be happy to do that. I've spoken a lot about it. So, Diana, we can discuss that with pleasure. I'll be happy to help however I can. Yeah.
All right. So that might be one of our Thursday afternoon movies, might be interesting. So while we're talking about it, this afternoon's movie is Natalie Cole. So that should be really beautiful. The daughter of Nat King Cole. And that's at 2:00 this afternoon. It's on the weekly schedule. I see that Amanda's already put it up. So if you haven't got the link, just write down the link. It's in the chat line. And that's at 2:00 this afternoon. Then tomorrow morning's Yiddish at 10:00. And by lunchtime tomorrow, you'll have the schedule for next week as well. Anybody else want to ask any questions before we end the session? Thank you so much for giving of your time this morning and for giving us such a really interesting story, for Dore to join us and Morris to be with us as well, to add to it, added luster to the story. And just hope you all stay well, stay safe. And if you're not vaccinated and you need assistance, please let us know so we can help you get your vaccinations.
And can I just also add, Diana, thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure.
I didn't know about this group. I do now. And I can see what an amazing job you do with all the stuff, with the whole program, all the programs that you do. So I wanted to thank you specifically for inviting me and for setting it up. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to it, especially Morris and Dore. I'm still kind of, that's so lovely you were here. But thank you to all of you, and stay safe and stay well. And maybe I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much, Diana.
Thanks to everyone. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Very good.